All right, for some analysis on the situation, let's bring in Santiago Vidal Calvo, who is City's Policy Analyst at the Manhattan Institute. He joins me now live from New York. Santiago, great to see you. Great to have you here with us on TRT World. I understand a lot of people across the world right now, they're celebrating the capture of Nicolas Maduro. I understand that there were some serious accusations against Nicolas Maduro in the country. But, this is what I want to understand right now. Do you think that any country has the legal right to invade another country and seize its leader if it decides he's a criminal?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. So we're talking about a very specific case here where Nicolas Maduro was a criminal narco-terrorist who was damaging regional security, both of Latin America, but also of the United States. And the President of the United States, under Article 2 of the Constitution, can decide that when a threat is sufficient enough, he can take a decision like what he took recently with Maduro, but also previously with Just Cause in Panama, which has been a precedent for President Trump now that he's in power and has done this. International law in this case is very frickly, and we really don't know where it's going to lie. It's a great area here, but as Venezuelans, we can tell you we're extremely happy about President Trump doing this operation within the territory and taking Maduro out of the country, because this finishes 27 years of a dictatorship that has ruled and pillaged Venezuela.
Santiago, with all due respect, I do understand that people are celebrating right now, but public celebration does not determine legality. International law does not change based on how people feel about a leader. International laws, they have banned the use of force against another country except in self-defense or with the approval of the United Nations Security Council. And as we know, neither was applied here. So, this is what I'm trying to say. You can oppose Maduro and still oppose breaking international law. Those are not contradictory positions.
Well, yes, it is true that that is not a contradictory position, but we need to also explain here that this is a very different scenario. Maduro is not the president of Venezuela. He was a usurper. In all reality and legality of the same international law that we're talking about, Maduro, it's not the rightful leader of Venezuela. He doesn't have the amnesty or the international protection that we give to leaders around the world. In all reality, Venezuelans gave sovereignty to a government that has taken away all of its freedoms and all of the things that international law is supposed to defend. And this government has usurped every single part of the institutions of the regime. All of the institutions around the country have been taken over. And that international law that we as Venezuelans wanted to have to defend all of the times that Maduro has killed Venezuelans, arrest them, and kidnap them, that international law has never been applied in the last 27 years. So Venezuelans right now are just looking at this as we have captured Maduro and we need to take back our country.
And Santiago, I'm sure you heard there in the press conference held by President Donald Trump in Mar-a-Lago, where he basically suggested that the United States will be controlling Venezuela. As a Venezuelan, are you fine with that?
I think this is the best case scenario for Venezuela. And I think having the United States transition hand in hand with a government elected by Venezuela, like it was with Edmundo González Urrutia and Maria Corina Machado, is the best case scenario for Venezuela. Because this means that we're going to have the U.S. security for getting rid of the corruption that is left in the country. But we'll also have billions of dollars worth of investment that is going to come to rebuild infrastructure, to rebuild the country, and to have American investors come and help us get back to where we were before.
Okay, Santiago, based on facts, if you look at U.S. policy and the history of U.S. and Venezuela, U.S. foreign policy towards Venezuela has been centered on energy security, sanctions, and pressure, not humanitarian nation building. So what makes you say that American involvement in Venezuela now is going to bring peace and prosperity? In fact, if you look at history, American intervention anywhere in this world has brought misery.
I don't necessarily agree with the last part. I think there are a couple of cases where American interventions have been good, and that's, for example, Panama, Grenada, and Kuwait. If you look at pictures of those countries have had American interventions, and they're prosperous countries, especially Panama. It's a prosperous democracy, and it's one of the highest growing GDPs in the world, and also in Latin America. I think in this specific scenario, we have a long history of partnership with the United States. Venezuela has been a democratic country, and we have been allies of the United States for longer than we can remember. It was the United States who first brought investment to Venezuela to start the oil industry. And it was their investigators and explorers who found that we had some of the largest reserves of oil in the world. The United States have always had investments in Venezuela, and we have been hand in hand. I think the people of Venezuela right now are just extremely grateful for the United States. They thank America. And we know that economic assistance and economic development is going to come in hand, because there are going to be a lot of people that are going to invest in Venezuela to rebuild it.
Santiago Vidal Calvo, I do appreciate your taking out the time and taking my questions. Thanks very much for joining me here on TRT World. I really appreciate your taking out the time once again.